Who's Bryan from Triple Feed?
Well, since Louis covered a little bit.
Yes, that's what he is.
Yeah, the running joke is, hey, white guy, we got some white guy stuff for you to do. Yeah. That's typically...
You could write the emails for us, man, because we're not good at that. I'm sorry.
Gerry is the worst speller I've ever seen.
No, that's Luis and I are the worst spellers, okay? ESL, baby.
Talk, and I'm like, well, your accent sucks.
Yeah, Siri doesn't like a Mexican accent. I'm sorry, dude.
So I had a completely vanilla childhood. It was just completely whatever. I played sports, did school. That was it. And I really have no non-professional background after graduating high school. So I graduated high school May of 2003, and I entered the Air Force November of 2003.
Okay.
So right out of high school, bam. And I get the question a lot, like, oh, how did you know you wanted to go in the military, blah, blah. I mean, ask anybody from my kindergarten class, and they all would have said he's going in the military. I don't know what it was. I was just attracted to it as far back as I could possibly remember.
Family in it?
Just distant relatives. My grandfather was in the Navy. My dad's side uncle was in the Army. But
was this pre or post 9/11?
Them being in the military?
No, when you signed up.
Oh, I signed in 2003. Okay. So
yeah,
after 9/11, yeah, for sure. So
was that an influence?
No, I don't know. I don't know if it was, I was just attracted to the Hollywoodism of the military or whatever I had seen based on, whatever. I don't know. I honestly don't know where it came from. It just was always there.
So JP and I have talked about this a little bit, just kind of like about the sensationalization of, or kind of this fascination. Maybe that's the right word, fascination or.
Well, the influence that you get from like media.
In the cinema.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So like for me, like John Wick is what turned me on to shooting, and like another guy that we talked to, that's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt, Raul. He said like Jean-Claude Van Damme movies got him turned on to like karate, and that's where it started.
Yeah.
And so like it seems to be like a common theme with people that we talk to, including myself, that like movies or shows or something like that like inspires career paths.
Did you have something like that, B-Dub, that like romanticized being in the military?
I cannot like pinpoint.
That's the word I was looking for, romanticize. Yeah.
We have a romanticized.
They have a bromance.
Me from a civilian side, I same way, like just like watching some epic movies. I'm like, I want to know how to shoot.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, but not to Bryan off.
So you joined the Air Force, right? Mm-hmm. People expected that to happen, and you did it. So then what?
So I'll touch on this because this is very important. Again, another question I get is, well, why the Air Force? Okay, so I already knew I wanted to go into, and I'm going to say special fill in the blank because there's so many special forces, special operations, blah, 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 blah. There's so many of soft special operations forces. There's so many under that category, under the umbrella of special operations command. Anyway, so I say that to say I didn't go into the Air Force to travel. I wasn't going to go in the military to like
go to school, the GI Bill,
refuel a jet, or go into the Army and be a diesel truck driver. Like, no, I specifically was like, I'm going to the military and I'm going to go do some cool stuff.
I want to do stuff.
I want to be special fill in the blank. And again, at that point, I was in high school. I didn't know crap about the military other than what I've just read and seen. So, yeah. So the biggest hyped up special fill in the blank is Navy SEALs, right? Because they have 8,000 books, they have 8,000 movies.
They are popular.
The list goes on, right? So
they have nice hair too.
Always nice, JP.
Cool gear.
So, as an 18-year-old impressionable kid, I was like, Dad, we're going to the Navy recruiter. He's like, all right, let's go. Went to the Navy recruiter. And again, this is 2003. So I'll talk about why that's important as well. So I went to the Navy recruiter and I was like, hey, I want to be a SEAL. After the guy stopped laughing at me because I was like $140, like I played soccer and ran track in high school, like, I'm going to be this Navy SEAL. And he's like, cool. All right, well, you're going to have to sign this contract to go open general. And Navy's going to put you at the needs of the Navy. You'll probably be on a ship for a couple years. And then, I don't know, 2-3 years, you put in a package. And if you get accepted, then you go to BUDS. And if you pass BUDS, you got a 2-year selection course before you're on a team. And I'm like doing the math. And I'm like, so 6, because again, the global war on terror is in its heat, right? It's heating up big time.
Big time.
It's 2003, the end of 2003. So 2001 happened. I freaking just like all of us probably, I watched it happen. My teacher brought in a big box television, plugged it in and said, everybody watch this. this is history. We watched it happen. That, I was already going to go in, but that just solidified I'm doing special operations to some degree. So, so the Navy path, he's like, and I'm like, all right, it's going to be 6 years before I see any combat overseas or whatever. And that, like I said, that's what I wanted to do. That's why I wanted to go in. So I was like, all right, cool, man. I'll hit you up later, maybe. So we walked out of there, and I was like, all right, what's the next most hyped, coolest thing? Again, I'm 18. I don't know crap. I'm like, Green Beret. Boom, Army recruiter. I walked 5 feet right into the Army recruiter door, like most recruiters are right next. I don't know why they do that. So I walked in there, and I'm like, I want to be Green Beret. After the guy stopped laughing, he's like, all right, cool. You're going to sign this contract. You're going to go in as whatever. You're going to be a cook, whatever you want to do, or not whatever. I want to do whatever the Army wants you to do.
Whatever I want you to do.
Exactly, right? And he's like, but if you go infantry, this will fast track you. And I'm like, oh, sweet. We're getting somewhere. He's like, yeah, you go infantry, 2-3 years. You apply for Ranger school. If you get accepted, then you go Ranger school, then you get Ranger battalion, then you do that for a few years, then you put your package in for Green. Same story as the Navy. So I'm like, all right, 6-7 years before I'm doing anything cool, right? I'm like, beat it, nerds. Left there, and I was like, Coast Guard, Dad, let's keep walking. Went right into the and Marines. I didn't even consider that because obviously being 18 and always wanted to go in the military. Like, these guys are idiots. Okay. Cat's out of the bag. Jerry's a Marine. He'll get into that later. That's why he can't spell. But so I didn't consider them. Right, blew past the Coast Guard door, and I was like, what am I gonna do? And at the time, my sister, who's 2 years older than me, was already in the Air Force. So I was like, kind of like at an impasse. I'm like, I don't want to do the Navy. I don't want to do the Army. It's gonna take way too long to do anything fun. And then we ruled out the other 2 branches. There's one left. There's Air Force. Didn't even consider it. I was like, well, I guess I'm going to college. Better start, working out that liver.
Bummer, dude.
Right? And, so of course, my sister, 2 years older, she's in the Air Force. I'm just graduated high school. We have a good relationship, and she knows my struggles. And she's like, hey, so I was looking up special operations, and I found this pamphlet, and the Air Force has something kind of like Navy SEALs. And I'm like, cool. I'm still going to college, because you're a chair force, you're in the Air Force, you're a pilot, you hear all this garbage,
So yeah, can we pause for a second? Because I hear that a lot too, and I think this is going to surprise people. Like anybody that I've talked to ever that was in any other branch of the service, like the redheaded stepchild is always the Air Force, right?
100%.
It's always the Air Force. So did you already know this at this point? I mean, I think I just heard you clown on the Air Force, previously.
Oh yeah, I knew the reputation.
Okay.
I also knew the Coast Guard, which is why I went past it.
Okay.
Well, the military branch?
Air Force?
Coast Guard.
What?
Coast Guard?
Coast Guard?
Military branch?
That's still to be determined.
No, I love all my guys and girls, okay? I'm fucking with you guys.
Okay.
Space Force is where it's at now.
All right,
Yes,
so
yes.
Sis tells you that, hey, they might have some special operations in the Air Force. And you're like, nah.
No. So here I am, doing college applications, and I'm looking for them in the mail, return letters. And I see one from my sister. I'm like, oh, cool, whatever, open it up. Because back then, there's still snail mail. And there's this pamphlet. And it says USAF, Combat Control, and Pararescue. And I open this up, and I'm like, whoa. There's dudes jumping out of planes. There's dudes coming out of the water, with camo on their face, and all these cool weapons and shit. And I'm like, what? So I go over to the, dial-up internet in 2003 and jam that in. And
AOL.
And I was just blown away. I was starstruck, right? I'd never even heard of these guys. I just said Air Force Combat Controller. I bet 98% of the audience has no clue what that is, right?
Well, we'll talk about that.
Yep. And so kind of JP and I were just talking business a bunch over dinner, and we're talking about marketing, advertisement. It's because there's no marketing or advertising for combat control. Nowadays, there's a couple things, out there, but again, we can get into that later.
Nobody's doing any movies or
Right.
Or on combat controllers or
Whoa,
video games.
Whoa. We got one movie.
Which one's that?
Transformers.
Oh,
Bring the rain, says Tyrese with his red beret.
how proud Bryan is. So proud.
Hey, I'm
By the way,
not necessarily proud. I'm just saying we got one. We got
Transformers
one.
holds up, though. It's a great flick. Okay.
So anyway, yeah. No, my colors are coming out. So I'm like, all right, cool. I guess I'll go to the Air Force recruiter. I showed the Air Force recruiter the pamphlet, and she looks at it, And immediately I can tell she's never seen this.
She's like,
pamphlet.
huh? Where'd you get this?
And I'm just like, oh my goodness, this is going to be a nightmare. Anyway, long story short, the Air Force in 2003 at that time was the only branch of the service that allowed you to go direct to their special operations training and start right off the bat. Just how I explained earlier, all the other branches wanted you to do the whole workup, which I get and there's merit to. And then fast forward to, I don't even know what year, like 2000, somewhere in the ballpark of like 2006 to 9, all the branches went to what the Air Force was doing with combat control and pararescue and said, hey, you know what? If you guys want to come in and be immediately like slotted for a BUDS class and you freaking pass, cool. Everybody come apply. And if you don't, you're back to the needs of the Navy. So every branch, Green Berets did that too. So you can sign up today, currently. Again, it happened sometime back in that 06, 09 range. You can sign up today to go into any job you want. And again, you're kind of at a disadvantage, right? Because you don't, because imagine like the Army, if you went infantry for a couple years, Ranger a couple years, then you got all those years, you're gaining experience, you're gaining knowledge of the military and its workings, knowledge of the Army, you're getting all these skills. So there's merit to it, right? And then by the time and I don't know if this is I know it's one of the reasons, I don't know if it's the main reason. That also would make a more mature special operations force, right? If you had guys work up in the ranks, so they join it, let's say 17 or 18, and they do 6 years before they can be a Green Beret. Let's just say that was the fast track before this faster program came online. Well, now you got all a bunch of 26, 27-year-old and higher, more mature teams, right?
Which seems smart to me because your pimply 18-year-old ass is ready to be
100%.
Right, ready to be there right now. You don't have the patience for this.
100%.
Let's put me in, coach.
100%. So what drove that change to where, and I don't think everyone emulated the Air Force. I think the Air Force is randomly so undermanned and nobody knew about combat control pararescue that they just had that program. And I guess it was working. Apparently they kept it. But not everybody didn't emulate them. It was just the needs of the war. So the global war on terror, like completely just skyrocketed, right? Iraq, Afghanistan, all these things. And so everyone, the military is like, okay, we can do one or two things. We can lessen all the standards so we get more guys through and we get more special operations teams. Or we just say, hey, anyone and everyone can apply right at the recruiter's office to be special blank.